think for me it's important the day my life ends is that I know that I use the talents that I had in a way that was only not for just for me or my community, but it was for society at large, so that I was able to be responsible and serve this generation, serve my generation, serve my nation, because as a South African, it's not by accident. And so for me, it's as important. And the best way I know how at this point is through food and through agriculture. And so I really want to play a role in transformation around the agriculture and food industry in South Africa.
Welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. I'm your host, Mogau. Join us for conversations with amazing people doing amazing things in food. Welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen, where we talk about everything food. And today I'm excited to be sitting down with Sipamandla of Local Village Foods. And we're going to be finding out what you do and how you do it, and all the amazing things you do.
Awesome.
Yeah,
great to be here.
Thank you so much. So first, some icebreakers before we get into the actual conversation. When is the last time you smiled, and what made you smile?
So, I was feeding my chickens this week, and I realized that somebody has been feeding my chickens lots of worms, dried worms, and so I give them grain, and they're not really fond of it, and they want to stick on the meat-based diet, and so I'm worried. But it made me smile because I realized we can be like that as people as well. That we don't have balance in the system, so that made me smile quite a bit.
Oh my goodness, that is so random but so cute. And what's your favorite thing right now?
Well, it's chickens. I think because I've been trying to learn. I've had chickens for 6 months. I've got 4 for free-range eggs. I've been looking at the best feed and how to keep them not being sick. So what should I do? What environment should I create for them? So that's been something I've been interested in, joining a lot of Facebook groups about pets, chicken as pets.
Are you serious?
Because people don't, there's a lot of information.
There's a community for everything. I love that.
There's a community. So that's been something I've been really interested for the past 6 months, and it's been exciting. And now you're thinking, okay, should I double my chickens? Should I increase them?
And you brought me some eggs, which I love. Thank you.
So that's been an area of interest of late.
Yeah, so you're a real farmer. You're doing everything. And who are the 3 people you would love to host for dinner, and why?
Yeah, so I don't really have names in particular, but I think for me, I love diversity. I love a dinner table that has people from all walks of life, so from race point of view, but also from nationality. And so I would definitely have somebody who potentially comes from a very poor rural community, in a sense, who perhaps has gone to school. And I would have somebody maybe from West Africa, specifically Nigeria, because Nigerian people are very well traveled on the continent. So, and then I'll probably have somebody from Europe who comes from the background of the old Europe and from wealth and privilege, just to be able to converse and dialogue around some of the changes we're seeing in the world and how do we play a role and how our backgrounds can influence how society is shaped. So I think for me, I love those conversations. So definitely people from those backgrounds.
Sure, that's a very interesting answer to that question. I've heard everything from like really famous people to like my late mother or something like that. I don't think I've quite ever heard an answer like that. So that's very interesting. And then lastly, what did you have for breakfast?
I had I bought breakfast actually today. So bad. I didn't have time. It was lunch.
It didn't come from the farm?
No. I bought a green omelette and I had a decaf coffee. I made at home the decaf. And so, but I had a green omelette. I feel so ashamed for buying my breakfast.
Don't. We totally get it. So let's get into the meat of the conversation. I'm so excited to be chatting to you today because I think you're so amazing. I think the products that you make are really inspired, and the impact that you have on communities even more so. So explain to me what it is that you do. For someone that doesn't know, tell me who Sipamandla is, what you do, and what is Local Village Foods.
Yeah. So I'm a commercial director and co-founder of Local Village. So Local Village, we say Local Village Africa. We are a whole foods company, and our central part of our business is working with rural communities across Africa. So sourcing inputs from communities, then we bring those communities into our supply chain, and then we create products for health-conscious customers.
Yeah.
And we've been in business for some time now, and Local Village Africa came about actually from two entrepreneurs who were both interested in community and rural development. My business partner, she's from Winterveld, and she grew up in the rural areas, and I'm from Lusikisiki. And we decided to merge and bring our businesses into one and combine so that we can better serve our customers and increase our basket offering for our customer, and simply be able to dedicate enough time for community work, but at the same time, the time that we need to dedicate to our customers, which are retailers. So that's essentially what Local Village Food is about. We've got quite a few products, from your whole foods, grains, to indigenous legumes, to snack bars, using indigenous products, to raw honey, just to name a few.
Yeah, I was just seeing now that you have sorghum that you can, which is incredible. I mean, for me, that's like real innovation, because a lot of us, especially in the city, we do want to eat some of these indigenous products, but sometimes they're hard to come by. And for you to think to put them in a can is so inspired.
Oh, no, thanks for that. I think, obviously, innovation, there's so much room for innovation and to try and solve the customer problem. I mean, we saw when we started doing sorghum is that people said, oh, we love sorghum, or many other products anyway that we have, is that people want convenience because they don't have all the time. But also we've seen with electricity in the current state, and so people don't, they can't cook, but they might want to make a quick salad. And so we thought, let's try and create a product that will solve that need for the customer.
That is amazing. So tell me, how do you go about choosing which products you're actually going to have? Because you guys have an array of products.
Yeah. I must tell you though, sometimes, when you sit in the food industry, you think somebody from outside might assume, oh no, you do a lot of market research. If you're a big company, for sure you can afford to do that stats. But when you're not a small company, when you're not a big company rather, sometimes it's instinct.
Yeah, I wanted to actually
good.
say it has to be intuitive, particularly the demographic that you are from. You're a black woman, and you know what black women, black community like to eat, and half of the things we grew up eating are not on the traditional supermarket aisle.
Correct. Correct. So you have to look at what you think might sell. Sometimes you flop, though. I mean, we've had a product. I'll tell you later about that. But so you look at that, but also you look at what's on the shelf, because then, especially from big companies in terms of direction, because they've invested quite a bit on research. So you then piggyback of what they've done, and you say, okay, how can we use what we have? Because we're quite different from a product offering, and there's also the value of the organization. So we try to distinguish ourselves and to be different from the mainstream in that sense. So you look at those, but also sometimes people will give you feedback. Customers can give you feedback. Sometimes it's quite humbling, especially if you're at market, so where we started. And so people say, why don't you do this way? And you don't realize the research that people pay for that, and customers will volunteer and give you that information, which is absolutely fabulous. And so we get insight from that as well.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of my favorite things about social media, is that you are getting from your customer, from your client, direct information about what they like, what they don't like, for free.
Exactly.
So the gold, that is the treasure that is in the complaints, is in that feedback that you're getting for free.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot more small companies need to lean on that, because big companies pay big money for that information.
For sure.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I'd like to hear about how you actually got into the career that you're in. How did it all start? How did you become this product developer, this person that's owning this company that does such amazing work?
So, as I was saying earlier, so my business partner and I both come from rural communities, and so when we both started our individual companies, I think very much the background was the same. How do we create a product or create an opportunity for the communities we come from? So I was saying earlier, I'm from Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. Lusikisiki is one of the poorest towns in the country, and unfortunately, it's also in the top 5 where there's rape cases, for example. And so it's not a place where it's exciting, maybe a lot of things are happening. And so moving from that background and then going into university, I went to UKZN and I studied a degree in community development and entrepreneurship. Yeah. So it was a weird combination for majors, but I think for me, one of the key things was when I learned community development, how do we really bring in communities into the mainstream economy? A lot of people have to migrate into the city for work, but yet people have so much wealth. There's so much wealth in the communities we come from, God-given wealth, where there's great land, there's people, there's resources, there's water access through skill. Either boreholes or rivers, and skill. And so in order for us to utilize that and not abandon what we have, how do we then create a market or an opportunity for those communities? And so I think for us, our gap, or what we're doing through our supply chain strategy and vision, is to bring those communities in, utilize their resources, help them set their own businesses, and then become part of our supply chain. So supply us with products that we need. And so I think for me, really one of the reasons I do what I do, and I think it's an important work, especially with inequality that exists in South Africa, and things are not getting any better. So the work that we do, I think, is as important, and that we continue doing it to try and solve some of the issues that exist in society.
And tell me a little about the communities and where exactly they are. I mean, you spoke about doing work across the continent. Where exactly are these communities that your work impacts?
Yeah. So we've done work in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and we source from Nigeria, we source from Benin, and then in South Africa we source from Limpopo, we source from Lusikisiki, we're about to source from Lusikisiki with a new project we've just launched. Northern KZN, we've got a community set up there, Northwest and Winterveld. So that's really our coverage at this point.
That is incredible. And how do you go about finding these communities? Does it start with the product? Do you decide we want this product? Let's go looking for a community that specializes in this. Or is it the community and let's find out what product they have?
So I think obviously because we're a business, we always look at what is it that we need. So for example, one of our biggest product is raw honey and in the indigenous grains. And so we would focus on how do we do training. So we look at obviously some research, which areas do we think that would work. So if the market is right, if it's product that we need to plant, what soil is most conducive. Actually, are the communities already growing the things that we need? And if they are, let's go and partner with them, and then source from them as well. We work with non-profit organizations, but also we've got our own that we set up, that we actually do the development work. Specifically, I think where we've done quite a bit of work is on the beekeeping side, where we literally go set up from scratch. We do the training, we give them everything they need, equipment, beehives. We've got another community, for example, of people living with disability, about 21 people. We've trained them in hive manufacturing, the bee boxes. And so we then buy those bee boxes from these guys that are living with disability to supply about 120 new beekeepers that we've trained, who will then supply us with the honey that we then supply to Food Lovers Market.
That's amazing. I hope you can see on my face how impressed I am by what you do. I mean, it's so impactful. I'm so impressed.
That's big that we can do.
So tell me about your passion and your love for the preservation and conservation of our local food systems, of our indigenous produce. Tell me why that is so important to you.
I think it's two things really for me, at the heart of it really. One is what I explained earlier, is that I come from Lusikisiki, and there's many communities like Lusikisiki on the continent. You go to Limpopo, where I believe you're from.
Yes, it is.
You see some communities where they've got so much wealth, and people think you need to move to the city to be able to create a livelihood for your family. For us is to be able to say, actually, you don't have to move into the city. Let's try create industries in those communities that you have. That a husband doesn't have to leave his wife, or wife leave her children, or husband, or whatever it is, where they're going to look for work, that you can actually be at home and create a livelihood for your family. So that's one. But the other thing is the fact that the global banquet table doesn't have African ingredients. And I don't mean it for Heritage Day. I don't mean it for September or May for Africa Day. I'm talking about day to day, when we're talking about, our new resolutions, this is how we're going to eat. African superfoods and whole foods need to come top of mind. So we can't just think about quinoa, of course, that's what we have in the market. But we've got so much. We've got sorghum, we've got fonio, we've got teff. Things that we could incorporate on a day-to-day diet, and then bring those ingredients up into the global banquet table, because it's important to have ingredients of different nationalities in the banquet table. Because once let's say, for example, you're in a conversation in Chicago somewhere, or in Manhattan, and somebody's talking about fonio or sorghum, and it's a conversation, where does it come from? How did it start? It's a conversation not just about the food, but it's a conversation about her people, the people that have grown this and where it's indigenous to. So in order for Africa to be recognized, to be part of a conversation, it's so important for these ingredients to be part of that global banquet table. And so really those are two main reasons, and many others, but I think those are two main ones.
Yeah, but on that, it's not just like a social, sort of answer to the question. It's also a very commercial answer to the question. When I think about all the foods that we currently eat, the pastas that we love so much, there is actually someone benefiting from that, and that someone is not us. So I think what you do is really, really important, and I applaud you for it. We often don't think, I think as the everyday consumer, often don't think about the farmer that's actually farming everything that we're eating. We don't think about the impact of our rands on the actual economy. And the economy is not just, the banks, et cetera, it's also the farmers many times in rural areas. So I really applaud you for what you do.
I mean, that's so important what you're raising. Like the commercial element, we don't consider it, we sometimes forget it. And it's just exciting for us to try the next thing. And of course, we need to be open, our palates need to explore different cuisine. But I think it's also quite important to see what is it that we do grow, and how do we create an economy. Because I think if we focused on creating these ingredients, using local produce, so when it's citrus season, we know we're buying citrus from South African farmers, then importing it from various European countries. It gives us a mind shift. It allows us to think, how do we allow a wallet to contribute to reducing unemployment that exists in South Africa? So that's such an important thing you highlight, Mogau.
Yeah, and we just had a nutritionist, and he was talking about, the importance of what we're putting into our bodies, and how much better is the food that we eat when it's actually from here. When you're eating sorghum, when it's in season, when it's from here, where it's from like a rural community, like you're saying, people that care when they are farming these things that are going to end up in your body, in the bodies of your children.
Correct.
I'm so impressed. It's clear that community is at the heart of everything that you do. Please tell me about the other values that you hold dear, and how they inform you as a person and how you run your business.
Sure. So for me, I think one of the key, probably an anchor value system that then has a lot of sort of pillars. Yeah. Faith, for me, faith is quite an important value system. So my faith informs quite a lot of things I do, probably everything I do. Yeah. And why that is important for me, some of the things I find through my faith is the element of love, the element of sacrifice, the element of understanding what stewardship means. So even the work that I do, I always tell my team, guys, please remember, I've got a contract with the company. If I'm fired, I'm fired. So sometimes there's a culture of, this is my business, this is my thing, I need to be paid the most. Yeah. But if we understand the value of stewardship, we understand that it's not just about you. Yes, you might be in this business, but it's not really your business in that sense. It's about understanding what love is. It's about when I disagree with my team members, how do we try to resolve that conflict in a way that's showing of love and being fruitful and being kind and compassionate with one another. Of course, we don't always get it right, for sure. I always come short. But I think that for me drives me and it inspires me to do quite a lot of things, and how we lead our team. Both my business partner and I share the same faith, and that's really important for us in terms of our team, how we treat people, and how we work with the communities that we work with.
Yeah, it can't be easy, but I'm glad that you're doing it. You wear so many hats. Tell me, what does time off look like? What does work-life balance, if you have? What does that look like? What are you doing when you're not working?
Sure. I don't know if it does exist, though, the whole life balance. Every time, I've never seen it in a way that I'm like, oh my goodness, everything is balancing. There's always something that's lacks, or something I'm going to prioritize, and something else will, But I find that from a personal and work. So if I create structures, at work where you've got team members who are doing key roles, responsibilities. So for example, if somebody's in accounts or somebody's in sales administration, whatever it is, I then have a role as a commercial director. I've got a specific role. I don't feel too overwhelmed and I don't get burnout too quick.
So delegate.
Indeed. Yeah. Delegate. And allow people to thrive in the jobs that they've been hired to do, because people are great. You're not the only awesome person. Like, people are really talented out there. And so if you work with people and collaborate with your team members, but also I find that from a home front, if you can afford, get help. You know, if you need somebody to help you clean your home, pay for that. Don't feel ashamed if you can afford it, or somebody to help you do your garden, whatever it is. You put in the structures in place so that you are able to dedicate. So you buy yourself time, in a sense, and dedicate to the things that make sense for you, that better utilize your talents and your time. And so I prefer that, really, and that's my way.
Amazing. So delegate and trust people to do what they should do, and collaborate. That's
rest.
And rest, because you can't be creative without, creatives need rest. That's the only way. And if you could advise someone, you know, if they've seen your product, they love your product, they wonder how they could become a Sipamandla, what would you say is like kind of the blueprint, kind of the map to get there? Because I think for a lot of us, we've been the first. So there wasn't really a roadmap to getting here. But now that you are here, what would you say is the way to try to get where you are?
Sure. So when we started the business, there was no capital. I mean, I started this business in my early 20s or mid-20s. But I didn't have any pension that I could withdraw from. I didn't have an investor saying, here's capital, you can start a product. So I will advise on my personal experience. And sometimes how I often think it's great, especially if you're young. I mean, you have the time, you'll eventually get it right, maybe in your later years. But when we started, you have a product, you create something from where you are. You might have an ambition of, let's say, you want to run a pasta manufacturing company, for sure. But the setup cost to run that pasta manufacturing, and also testing if the product is going to work. So you start really from where you are. So if you're saying, you know what, I've got 300 rand. So when we started the business, you laugh, but we used to sell free-range eggs. It's very different from what we do. Still in the same industry. We started selling, I was making granola from my kitchen. We had raw honey. My business partner now was my supplier. And I set up at a market, organic market. So I had 3 markets running. And you go into markets, you test the idea. And I was traveling a bit at the time as well and exploring. I fumbled upon African indigenous ingredients like teff and some of the ingredients from Nigeria. And things changed for me. And I thought, okay, let me start bringing these in. And sourcing from local farmers that are here already farming these ingredients. So then you start growing from where you've obviously been. But even then, we didn't have resources to then say, okay, and actually we want to create a snack bar, we want to create a canned foods, because our budget could only afford us to just create a product. And then we joined a lot of incubation programs along the way just to help us, because some of them you pitched and then you want some money, and then you could put in money for marketing, you could put in money for labels and branding.
I actually know your business partner from an incubation program.
Oh, my word. We've been around, hey? We've been around. So you do that, and then you find yourself where you are. I mean, we're not even where we want to be.
You build as you go.
We are far from where we want to be, but I think when we look back, we've seen so much growth from the days we used to package our free-range eggs in clear buckets, and we put straw in, and then we didn't know that the eggs will quickly go off because there's no breathing space, and then the following week you start putting holes in the bucket so that the eggs can breathe, and then you can sell those at the market. I mean, one was called an egg lady at the market. So some people still bump into me, hey, egg lady, because, that's where we started. But you just grow from where you are. And then you test it, and I think along the way you find beautiful retailers, some of the retailers that we supply, these beautiful independent health stores that are created by founders who are really passionate about small businesses. And so you can then start listing your product from there, and then you build to the next one, But as you're getting market insight from your customers at markets, and then you're reinvesting, and then you're winning competitions or part of programs where there's investing in your business, and then you can find yourself growing.
Oh, that's amazing. So tell me, what has been your best-selling product? What product is the market really loving that you found success in?
So we're seeing quite a lot of growth in the sorghum. I suppose it's not a surprise.
I'm laughing because in the past couple of interviews, everyone said something about sorghum in some way or another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, there we go. We're also seeing quite a lot of growth in our hibiscus. So we supply the obviously hospitality industry, retail, and we supply directly to customers. So we've seen sort of a nice uptake in that range. But people love our bars as well. That's been interesting. And then there's been products, obviously, that
didn't do so well.
have been discontinued. And, yeah.
That happens. So take me through the process to launch a new product. Could be a new line or a completely new product. How do you even go about creating this product?
Yeah. So let's take, for example, honey. I mean, honey is honey, right?
Yeah.
It's this beautiful product that the bees get to work, and then you get this beautiful product. I think for us it's even more beautiful then because we see the communities and we see them being paid. We sign off-take agreements with them and it's like, oh my word, we have a client. And so that's from a supply chain, right? So we're saying, okay, we want to grow our market share by this X percentage. Do we have enough supply to do that? And we say, okay, we have enough supply, we don't have enough supply. How do we then create supply? So do we train more communities? So that they can then become part of our suppliers? So that's one. So supply for us is quite an important element when we consider R&D. But when we then clear, we say, okay, what is it that we're trying to solve for? Are we trying to solve for a sweetener? As example, do we want to just have a sweetener in a category, or we want to create an experience for a customer? So for example, we've got a honey that is in a beautiful gift that we're just launching into market. We're not just saying we want to be a sweetener because that market is overpopulated. Yeah. We say, okay, let's create a gift because for us, our honey journey is such a precious gift because of the members that have been involved to create it. So we take the same product, we create this, and then we find, okay, who are we going to distribute this to? Where's the best channel to distribute this particular product to? Yeah. And then we see ourselves do that. Sometimes there are things we don't have capability to do. We lean on some of our partners. For example, what is our product? There's one product, for example, we had pasta. We don't have pasta machinery, but we had the inputs. And so we went to a partner, we said, look, you have capability. Can you sell us some of your extra time that you're not using to create this pasta for us? This is our formula. This is our testing that we've done. And, so those are ways that we actually see. So supply, but also market fit. And most companies start with market fit. There's no right or wrong, but I think it's, obviously you want to start with, supplying your customer what they need, but you need to make sure that you've got sufficient supply to be able to do that. And then you ask, do I have capability to do that? If I don't have capability, who does? Who could make a great partner for that capability? Yeah. And then how do we take it to market?
That's amazing. Yeah. An important question is, where can people find your product?
So we sell, our honey, for example, is a food lovers market nationally. We've got beautiful independent health stores I was telling you about. We supply Farm Table in Johannesburg. We're supplying Jackson's Real Food Market, to just name a few. And there's some stores that are on the pipeline in Cape Town as well. And then there's Checkers. But we've started off with Johannesburg. So our canned food, for example, you can find that is in at Checkers.
Nice. And online?
Yes, we've got an online shop. We are also a micro marketplace and a Take-A-Lot.
What would you say has been, I'm sure there have been many, challenges along the way?
Yeah. I know. I don't know why we chose the food industry. I mean, it's an exciting industry.
We love the thrill.
But boy, it's a hard industry. It is a competitive industry. And simply, perhaps because South Africa is designed in the way it's designed, you see it in the banking sector, in the insurance, there's 5 big players. And that's it. And so when you're small, you're trying to navigate. You don't have 10 million rand to drive one SKU, one product line for marketing. You can't afford that. Yeah. And so I, for example, I'm not good at social media. I suck at social media. My business partner she doesn't like social media. But now you find yourself having to put out stuff and then you forget and then you do that. So one is being able to be in an environment where there's too much sort of big competitors and they have big budget. So that's a really key challenge, but it could also be an opportunity because there are customers who actually want to buy from
prefer that
small scale. So that's an opportunity that exists in that challenge, but it's not a big enough market. Then you have product that you develop because you thought, this is such a great idea. And then the market will tell you, no, it's not really such a great idea. No, not so awesome as you thought it was. So there's that, and so there you have to pay your school fees because you can't afford market data. So really, I suppose I can put that under funding, especially in our sector. A lot of people, funders I've seen, they're very interested in tech-enabled business. But if you are working with farmers and you're working in people are not excited about that because you're thinking about assets. It's just too much of a risky business. So there's not a lot of investments in that. But the other thing is the regulations. Regulations are awesome for the customer and for the business. They help you, but that requires capital to be able to fulfill product testing, getting your facility right to make sure that it complies. The other thing is when you're alone. So when we started the business, I was alone. That is burnout. I always wanted a partner. So that for me was just like, I need a partner. So that can be a key challenge when you're trying to do everything yourself. But there's an opportunity, collaborate. So I find myself, those are some of the perhaps key challenges. The other thing I always sort of say is you treat a startup sometimes as this little project of yours, this baby. This is not your baby. This is a business. And so sometimes you have to separate yourself from that and realize this is a separate entity, and you need to put in policies in place. I'm now trying to give advice, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge for many small businesses, but we've seen it in the early days when you just, you don't separate the business from personal, and that can be very dangerous for business.
Sure. Sipamandla, I'm very inspired. I'm very inspired by, your love for communities. That's very clear. Your love for your product. And I wish you every success. But I just want to know what's next, both for you and for your company. And I'm talking the big dream. Where do you hope to see yourself in the next coming years?
Sure. So I think for me personally, it's important for me to know that, we have such a short life here on earth. Sometimes you have 80 years. It's not very long if you think about it. If you've met people 100 years, they can still remember their youth like it was yesterday. And you realize life is short. I think for me it's important the day my life ends is that I know that I use the talents that I had in a way that was only not just for me or my community, but it was for society at large, so that I was able to be responsible and serve this generation, serve my generation, serve my nation, because as a South African, it's not by accident. And so for me, it's as important. And the best way I know how at this point is through food and through agriculture. And so I really want to play a role in transformation around the agriculture and food industry in South Africa. But I think for us as a business, it's probably two key things. One is that we want to see many communities develop and be participating and seeing industries in rural communities. We don't have to disorganize everything. I love the rural areas and I love the quietness, so I don't want to create factories, but you want to create these farmlands where people are really utilizing their resources, getting involved in regenerative agriculture, feeding themselves, having own free range from their own, where they don't have to go buy eggs from the stores, where they can create food and they can feed their communities and their family, and health becomes such an instrumental thing in their society, where there's just healthy bodies in South Africa. But the other element is that we want to see our product in people's pantries. So when you open up a cupboard, you have to see one of our brands, whether our Noju honey brand, or whether it's our Bisa beverage, or it is our local village foods, which is our superfoods and grain line. So we want to be able to be in people's pantries, that people prefer us as a brand because of the values that we stand for. So that's really our big picture and goal.
Yeah. And I know you'll achieve it. You make me excited to be South African. You make me excited to be a woman in today's generation. I think you're one of the people that practice active citizenship, and I enjoy that so much. And congratulations on everything. And I can't wait to see everything that you'll do.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And congratulations to you for this. This is such a great opportunity in answering some of the questions that people have. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. On that note, I will see you on the next episode. This has been Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.